What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the B1KER Bar Podcast, episode 53, I hope. I think that's what it is, 53. What do you know? So we're here tonight. I'm really stoked about my guest tonight. I got Brad from Cali Protectives, better known as Cali. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk about today's sponsor. Actually, today's sponsor is Cali Protectives. So this is the deal. I've never had the sponsor of the show be the same person that's on the show before, but I'm going to tell you guys this right now. And even though Brad's listening, maybe he could put on the earmuffs or something, but this is the deal. Hands down, my favorite company that I've ever done anything with on YouTube has been Cali Protectives. And it hasn't only been because, hey, they've given me some free products or things of that nature. It's because seriously, when I met Brad, how much he really truly cared about people's safety, it really stood out to me. And everybody at the company was super cool, and then the products were good too. So then one of my friends gets me on this Cali helmet, and he's like, "Oh, dude, you gotta try this Maya helmet, man. It's so comfortable." I'm like, "Whatever, dude. I honestly, like, a helmet's a helmet. I don't really give a shit." And he's like, "No, man, you got to try this thing." And it's all sweaty. He just got done riding, and I'm like, fine, I'll put your helmet on if that's what it takes for you to shut up. And I put on this helmet, and sweaty and all that other jazz, it was really freaking comfortable. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have to get one of these. And that's kind of whenever I first started talking to Cali was I wanted to try that helmet because the sweaty, nasty one felt great. So I ended up getting one, and I've been wearing that Maya or another, like a newer one of that, but a few of them over the years because apparently like bounced my head off the ground. But so that's been my go-to helmet, man. Every time somebody asks me what helmet that I ride, that's the one. So that stands true to what I said a minute ago about, like, I really truly love their products. So let's go ahead and do a couple other things real quick. If you guys are listening to this podcast on some podcast app, swing by that app and leave me what do you call it? A review. Thank you. And a 5-star review only. If you want to give a 4-star review, there's a bunch of other podcasts that you can do that for. So go ahead and do that. That'd be sweet. Outside of that, if you're on my Patreon, thanks a lot, guys. You guys are always the sponsor. So those of you guys that are interested, for $1 a month, you can get in there, get some access to the coupons, keep my beer fridge full. For $5 a month, you can get a sticker pack and also keep my beer fridge full. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm gonna go ahead and bounce back over. We got Brad here. See if I can do this all in one. There we go. What's up, Brad? How's it going, man?
That's great. Had a great day. Two bike rides in one day.
Oh, there you go.
I broke out my road bike for the first time the whole year today.
Oh no! How'd
my
that
wife
go?
Oh, it sucked. My wife tricked me into it, but but we did it. It's all good.
That's funny. You know, that's the same way that I got into riding road bike. Well, similar. I bought a single speed so that I could just commute to work. So I had an excuse to drink more beer. I was like, oh, if I burn more calories, I can drink more beer. And then I talked her into it. And next thing you know, she wants to like climb hills and stuff. I'm like, do you not see the shape of me? So next thing you know, we're doing road rides.
Like I said, it was my first one of the year. So,
yeah.
And then we went to a local brewery after. So it's all good.
Where'd you go?
Kelly's.
Right.
Yeah.
Sweet, dude.
Yeah.
I've been to a few places down there when I've been visiting your shop, and you guys got some good beers down there.
Not bad.
Not bad. So let's go ahead and I would like to maybe kind of rehash some of the stuff that we talked about on that episode that we did way back when. That was a couple of years ago, but I'm sure there's a bunch of new people out here listening that maybe aren't familiar with the history of Cali Protectives. Let's maybe a little bit about where you came from and how you started the company.
Sure. Well, we started in motorsports first. I have a carbon fiber background from a previous career in aerospace where I worked on military aircraft. Super lucky. I was in R&D on both the B-2 bomber and F-18s, and got a lot of background just building carbon parts. So when somebody came and asked me to help them start a carbon fiber factory to help supply helmet shells to make motorcycle helmets, and sure enough, I said, how many times a year will I have to come to Asia? And they're like, 4. And I'm like, great. And then I spent 150 days a year for the next 7 years in Asia. I wouldn't do it again. Honestly, I wouldn't, but obviously I feel very lucky to be where I'm at. But I'm sending these helmet shells over to the helmet factory and having some testing background. I'm looking at these tests. I'm like, why is this test look like this? So essentially what happens is we've all had helmets when we were kids that the foam got loose, right?
Right.
What happens is you make the shell and then you make the foam and you shove them together. You glue them, tape them, any way to get them together, but it's an imperfect match.
Mm-hmm.
And so you make the shell super thick and hard to spread the load, and then you make the foam theoretically softer so that it dissipates the energy, but it's an inefficient structure. So me coming from R&D in aerospace, I said, why don't you in-mold these like you do a regular bike helmet? I'm looking around for a regular bike helmet, and the only one sitting really close to me is not a regular bike helmet, but it's kind of like a regular bike helmet. And they looked at me like, you're crazy. It's not possible. It's a tooling problem. So we just started messing around with it, and we were able to figure out how to, 2 years later, how to make this all at one. Okay, good for us. What does that mean? What it really meant was I could make a much thinner shell,
mm-hmm.
and I can make the foam softer. Everything I do is about trying to make the foam softer because I believe our helmets are way too hard. We're mm-hmm. causing way more brain trauma than we should. And it's based on how we built the standards. But if you can make that shell thinner, now when you impact, it's going to dissipate. It's going to flex much faster. It's going to get to the thing that saves your head, that energy absorbing foam, faster. So that's what we want to do. We want to try and get that foam softer. The standards were built back in the early 70s where they took cadavers. I do this like they held them by the ankles and dropped them. I don't think that's really how they did it, but
I think that's how they did it.
I think it's pretty cool to think about it. Dead people, throw them on their heads.
Right.
And they
where do you get some bodies at in the helmet industry, right?
Oh, you can still buy them today. I have never done, like, you can buy just the heads.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I thought we were joking.
No, it's a whole industry.
My God.
So when you check that box that says you can use any of my body parts, it can go anywhere. And
oh Lord.
I checked the box. I mean, you can use my head. I'm done with it
too, man. I'm hoping I make it into a helmet factory.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, this guy's head is screwed up, man.
Yeah, no, they're still doing it. You know, anyway, so they dropped the full bodies, and they determined that it took 300 G's worth of force to break the skull.
Uh-huh.
All right. Nothing to do with
Is there like
trauma.
a certain height that they're doing that from? Or
usually it's about 2 meters.
Okay.
It's 6.2 meters per second, which comes out to be about 2 meters.
Okay.
And the what they determined was that's what it took to break your skull. We didn't know a lot about brain trauma at that time, so that became the standard. That is still the standard today. 300 G's. 300 G's is often death. But as a helmet maker, if I make this helmet and I send it to a lab and they put now a magnesium head form in instead of a cut off cadaver head form with a linear accelerometer, they drop it, and as long as it's below 300 G's, you're okay.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you can sell the helmet. So, but in reality, 300 G's is crazy. It takes about 74 G's to knock you out. How many times have you been riding with somebody where you know they got a concussion, but they weren't knocked out?
Yeah, they're pretty much every time.
Yeah, they're below 75 G's, yet that's all we're really trying to work on. Now we've also learned about rotational forces and the things that MIPS talks about, and we can get into that if that's a way that you guys want to talk about. So, you know, there's so many dynamics that happen in these crashes. But again, I go back to where I was saying before. I believe all helmets are too hard, and we need to start dissipating energy earlier. 80% of all crashes are below 100 G's.
Right.
104 to be exact, according to a study from the Imperial College of London. You know, so we're building these helmets to take the worst of the worst crash, which is important. We want to take that worst of the worst crash too. If you talk to the people at Snell, that's all they worry about. They don't want to talk about the low hits. They think that that's the only important thing. And I take a little bit, with all due respect to Snell, because they did wonderful things to change how we built helmets back in the 50s and 60s. But I want to solve all crashes. I want, from the little crashes that build up, the additive effect. I mean, American football, the studies that are going on there are amazing for what
crazy,
we're learning about, the shear forces that happen inside your brain when you have an oblique impact. It's not this anymore. It's like, wow, this thing rotates, and now you got these different layers of the brain, and they spin at different rates. They break the axions.
I thought about that before. Like, why is the mountain bike helmet not like the inside of a football helmet? How it's all like big pieces. You know what I mean?
Multiple reasons. Big, bulky. I mean, you want to ride with a football helmet?
No, not at all. But I was just thinking they could put those pieces in there like that. Like, the kind of squares that they got in there.
Yeah, and we are trying to do more and more of that stuff. I mean, like we play around with not the big squares, like you can't even see it, but there's those little blue things in there. The idea, those, we call it a low density layer, so that you start dissipating energy really quickly. I think you're onto something. I mean, talk to a skateboarder, and they hate wearing helmets. Now they hate wearing helmets, period. But when they're in competition and they have to wear one, you say, hey, wear this bike helmet. And they're like, those things are too hard. They hurt my head.
Yeah.
The problem is the skate helmets, the old ProTech ones that took all the small hits. They didn't take the big hits.
Right.
So when you're talking about using the football ones, they take a lot of the little hits, but you need to take the big hits. And that's what that hard EPS foam takes, is the big hit. So
I see what you're saying.
You're trying to, so I think it's funny. I had this exact conversation with Peter Holder, the inventor of MIPS, when I was saying we need to make helmets softer, and he's like, those are two different helmets. And I'm like, Peter, you invented MIPS. We're smarter than this. We can do this.
We can do it, right?
And I got to admit, I've got a project on a bucket style helmet for BMX skate street stuff that I've been working on for 2 years, and I haven't got the full range yet.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it.
We've had this conversation before, because you had explained, the big hits to me on the helmets, and kind of what you have to do to get those certifications is meet those big hits. But what you had expressed to me is like, man, how many accidents or how many times you bang your head around during the year that are like these really low impact ones, but they're obviously like, that's trauma. Like the last time that I went down, I banged my helmet up pretty good. It needs to be replaced, but I didn't knock myself out. You know what I mean? I didn't crack the shell completely, but man, I rang the shit out of my bell. Like I was a little dazed for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And so that was obviously under 75 G's from what you just said earlier. Like those are the ones that are happening all the time. Those big, huge hits they're few and far between, man,
Right. But yes, and that's why I'm saying we want to figure out how to take care of more of those hits that you just took. But at the same time, we want everybody to get up and ride again. Whether it's a big hit or a small hit. So it is a balance. And some people take the approach, we just want to take care of that big hit, because you're here today, you're talking to me and you're fine. Yeah. But I think we can do more on those.
Allegedly fine.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah, I'll drink to that. But what are you drinking over there?
I went light. I went Pacifico right now.
Right on. I don't think I've had one of those in a long time.
Yeah, I used to live on my sailboat, and it was you had to live.
That was the go-to?
That was the go-to.
You do a lot of sailing?
Not for a long time.
Yeah.
But I've got my wife convinced to move on a boat with me again. I'm pretty stoked.
Oh, sweet. Dude, where would you go?
She wants a little latitude. She wants a little warmer, but I still, depending on, I could live in Santa Cruz. I could live in Monterey. She wants San Diego.
Yeah. You want to get down there where it's warm.
Yeah. But, we're still a few years off from that. So we're thinking about getting an interim boat, something that we could do maybe around Morro Bay or something like that for now.
I was just in Morro Bay over the weekend, man. It's awesome down there.
We were in oh shit. What's the one the everybody rides the dune buggies on the sand?
Oh yeah. Pismo? Is that
Pismo?
There you go. Yeah.
And I gotta admit, I'm taking the COVID thing fairly lightly, not serious, but lightly. I wear my mask when I need to and stuff. Holy shit, there was a lot of people down there. It actually made me slightly nervous. So
we were in Morro Bay. It was our anniversary, and then we went over to Slow, and the lady had some work to do over there, and pretty much everybody was walking around no masks on, other than like when you walked into a store that you had to. So it's interesting. I think that's a whole other podcast, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's some other guys that know a lot more about it than I do. So I looked up to them. So if you were tooling around in your boat, would you do Caribbean, or just kind of like bounce around on the west coast of Mexico and stuff, or what we?
So when I lived on my boat, I was still working aerospace, so it was a home, and I lived in Redondo Beach Harbor. I'd go to Catalina Island at least once a month. I sailed once a week, but I met enough people that said, "I'm going to sail the world," and they got 3 months out and they quit and they hated it. So I'm taking a much lighter approach of, I just want to do some coastal sailing. I want to go down to Mexico. I want to go down the West Coast, and then hopefully get down to Panama, cross the canal, and go the other side.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I can tell you, I love harbor life. I know I like harbor life. I've introduced my wife to that a few times where we've done, vacationed on in harbors, and she likes that part, and she's unsure about the longest I've been out away from seeing land is only like 5-6 days.
Right.
And it's a little weird,
Yeah. So, I've never been on a boat where I can't see land. That makes me nervous to think about.
It's pretty cool. So I'm trying to be realistic about my expectations.
Yeah.
But, I also have dreams of going to the Caribbean and sailing in Hawaii.
I had this guy that was a supervisor at one of my jobs, and he had lived on a boat for a while, and that's kind of what he did for like 2 years, I think, in the Caribbean. He just like bounced around. He just talked about like the harbor life or whatever. He was like, dude, it was just so much fun. And that was all he was talking about, was getting to the point where he could retire and just get back down there again.
Back on a boat. It's it's great. Like when you get a new t-shirt, you have to decide what t-shirts goes.
Right.
You don't have a warehouse or a garage you can hang out in, right? It's like, the simplicity of life is pretty damn cool.
Would you put a mountain bike on the boat so you could still like maybe try to do some riding somewhere?
I'd probably have to do that. I mean, when I lived on it before, I'll make the long story really short. I took 7 loads of all my shit. Never lived on a boat before. Had really hardly sailed. I bought this boat, took everything I owned and gave it to Goodwill, except for a 4x4 storage unit for my bikes and my skis.
Yeah.
And then 3 days into it, 45 knot winds through the harbor. And I'm like, oh, fuck, what have I done?
Oh, no.
But I still remember falling in love with it on a rainy day in the cockpit with the bimini on and splicing line, and having a little Buffett playing in the background, probably out of Pacifico. Going, this is awesome.
Right on, man.
So anyway, yeah.
So then you end up doing this Cali thing. So how did you get to the point where you were checking out this in molding stuff that we were talking about earlier, and you were like, all right, I'm gonna try to do my own gig? Or
never. I didn't want to start my own company. I was not looking to it. Basically, I'm an engineer. I'm really a technician. I love being in the lab. I love making stuff. I love solving those kind of, dig in and figuring out how to do stuff. And what we came up with, the testing was pretty significant. We were like going, oh shit, this is good stuff. And we weren't the only people trying to do it. There were other people trying it. And so we actually went to those other people and said, hey, we've got this wired. This is production ready. We can send it, and we're happy to work with you. We'll sell you the patent, or we'll license it to you. And there were a couple companies who were really close to saying they want to do it. And then they backed out because it's more expensive. It costs more money, and safety's hard to sell. I mean, it's getting better now, but 12 years ago when we were talking about this, people are going, let's make sure we just put a pretty paint job on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Nobody gives a shit about safety until they fall down and bang their head on something.
Yeah. So I had essentially what ended up happening was when, we weren't able to convince somebody else to do it. I have an angel investor who came in and said, you got to do this. This is too important. And it's been awesome because he's been super supportive. He's a, silent investor. He stays behind the scenes. He's never once, pressured me to compromise the number one reason that Cali exists is for safety, for research. We follow the research. We work with universities. We work with professors constantly. Like, I'm not that smart. I just go listen to these guys and pick out the stuff and try it. I go to the lab. I try these things that they suggested. We're the first to put in cone head, for example. So the in molding thing is ours. That's what we started, right? And I got that investor behind it. Cone head, I don't know how much you've know about that, but those are the geometric shapes inside. It's like a crumple zone. Don Morgan, a brilliant physicist from Australia, was trying to get people to look at this stuff, and he approached me, and I'm like, I'll try it, and it worked.
So the in molding stuff, though, did you patent that, and then that's basically then all these other companies had to pay you guys some royalties to use it?
Theoretically, there's somebody who's basically saying, I won't name their name, but
somebody out there,
who like Liette uses it and they pay us a royalty. I've worked with some snowmobile companies and that happens that way.
So the in molding allowed you to like change the shape of the helmet though too, and kind of start getting fancy with all the designs, right?
Not so much. That's not really what it did. What it really did was, again, was way more efficient on impact of energy.
Okay.
It's still today that your best structures are the rounder ones. If you don't have a lot of edges to catch, and then if you hit, like, if you think of some of the helmets that have really, this isn't the perfect example, but I'm going to find an edge here. If you fall and catch an edge that throws the helmet, that's going to cause a lot more rotational forces. That's going to make your head spin.
Right. So like for people that are listening, if you were falling backwards and you caught that kind of tip and point of the back of an enduro helmet, he's showing that it just like kind of cock your head one way or another because of that. That makes sense. So that's probably why then like the skate helmets tend to be just round then, huh? Because
I think that style just happened.
It's just the style.
So many years ago. It's very simple.
Just go with it.
Yeah. I mean, Troy put that big fin on for a while, and that's not
Troy being.
That Troy Lee guy. Shit, I got to be careful.
Yeah, look, you're out here. You're used to talking to the guys in the industry, so like, you're gonna drop all these names that people would actually recognize if you use the whole name.
Well, and to be fair, I was super lucky. Troy Lee invited me to come sit in his office a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, and we talked safety. People used to tell me that had worked with Troy that safety is not his number one thing. I can tell you, I can't tell you in the past, but I can tell you he takes it very seriously now. And
right on.
While we have different approaches, he does give a shit. And I was honored to have those conversations, and then to go see how they've got 9 painters painting these amazing paint jobs was pretty cool too. But he gives a shit. He cares about what happens.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
So as do you. So you get into this spot where these people don't want to buy your stuff, and you get this investor, and he's like, "All right, well, you need to do this." So at that point, you're how is it the guy that doesn't want to be in business at all? What do you start doing to?
Oh shit!
So we put this thing together.
So we go to Indianapolis Motorsports Show, the first trade show in Indy. Used to be. It doesn't exist anymore. Like Interbike doesn't exist anymore, and we get a booth, and I've got my first motocross helmet, and like first half of the day, immediately I'm like, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about another fucking helmet, right? And so literally I'm like, I've spent all my money to be here. I started standing in the hall, again, not with this helmet, but standing in the hall, go, check this out. And people go, no, thanks. I go, just put it in your hands. And if you don't want to talk to me after, I'll wish you a good day. And they put it in your hands. And the byproduct, again, of doing what we do is not only does it dissipate energy efficiently, it's lighter.
Right. So as soon as they touched it, they were like, okay.
Pretty cool. And then, so the rest of the weekend, that's what I did. I stood in the hallway of the trade show, just like putting this in people's hands.
Yeah.
And only one guy the whole weekend goes, okay, and handed it me back and said, screw you. But
Right.
I mean, he didn't say screw you, but he just said no thanks. But you know,
And that was Troy. No, just kidding.
yeah. Could have been. No.
Right.
So you start grinding. You start grinding. Look, most of the distributors, especially on the motorcycle side, have their own helmet brands, and they're not looking to sell somebody else's. And it was a grind. I mean, so you
started out just moto was your full
moto.
Like your that's where you were at. Do you have a moto background yourself, or
what? I bike first. So when I left aerospace, I went to work for Specialized for a while. Started in helmets there. I was I left there and I was the head of engineering. The bike I rode today, my road bike, is Tarmac #2, if you know what that frame is. It never went to production. So it's got an aluminum down tube and chain stays, and then carbon seat stays and carbon top tube. Idea being that the crispy response of aluminum down below, but the vibration damping above. Right. Anyway, so
we digress.
Yeah, I know. So where was the question again?
I don't know.
Oh yeah. How did I
think how are you getting started?
Yeah.
So you say you started grinding. So I mean, basically you got this investor. I mean, you don't have any employees. You don't have like a facility. Like, how do you?
Started right here where I'm sitting right now.
So you just opened up the newspaper and in the garage. There you go.
Yeah. I actually had I was also doing carbon parts, but we did carbon parts for KTM. Oh, so this is where you asked about getting into motorcycle.
Yeah, that's what it was. If you had a motor background.
I was into bike riding. I enjoyed riding. Casually, typical wannabe sport racer. Right. You like to be an adrenaline junkie, back when we did the kamikaze, straight down the fire road at
Mach 9, right?
Yeah. But so then I started making parts for KTM, and I'm like, okay, if I'm making these parts for motorcycles, I want to get into this. So that's when I bought my first dirt bike. And now you've seen my collection of bikes at the office.
You got a whole bunch of them.
Too many. I got like 5 street bikes and 3 dirt bikes, and so it just came because if I'm working on something, I want to dive into it. Yeah, like I want to get to know it. I want to understand the sport. It got really interesting when some hang gliders wanted to start using our helmets, and they're like, "We'll take you out," and I'm like, "Okay, we'll see."
Yeah, I'd be good up until that point. I'd be like, all right, guys, let's stick with things that keep my feet on the ground. So you start doing this moto thing, and at what point?
Skid plates, pipe guards, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So you start building the helmets, though, and you said you went to Indianapolis. What was the trade show for?
Motorsports.
Oh, just motorsports in general.
Yeah.
When you said Indianapolis, I was thinking, well, what's he doing at a race car thing? So.
No. It was. Yeah, they have a really good motorsports trade show there. Like I said, it's also dead.
So those helmets start selling right away, or it kind of
grind. I mean, we were just calling, and we get some response. In fact, around Indy was one of our best territories because shops would go to that show.
Right.
And so actually around that part of the Midwest was fairly strong for us. But then we're like, well, okay, why don't we take the same technology and put it in a downhill helmet? And we did, and bike just took over. We still do moto. I still love moto. Moto's super important to me because it still is where a lot of my R&D is, because there's a lot more margin in a motorcycle helmet. So I can go try some new stuff and still sell it, where bike margins are a lot tighter. Yeah. And so
we're a bunch of cheap asses, man. We're not.
We are. And by trying it there first, I can perfect it first and then bring it all the way through. My goal is always to try and bring the technologies that I believe in down market. Bring it down to everybody, our whole low density layer thing, where we want to put softer shit right next to your head. Yeah. I want it in every helmet, not just, everything over $100.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. But I think first we need to get people up to speed on what that is. So those of you that are listening that are familiar with MIPS, that's a system that allows the helmet to rotate, sort of like your brain shakes around inside of your skull and the fluid in there. And it is supposed to keep, it's supposed to help with the side impacts instead of just like the drop the cadaver on his head. It's
oblique, so and none of us rarely hit bam, right?
Right. We usually don't land upside down.
Boom.
Right? Yeah.
It's a whole rotational thing. So that's what MIPS is designed to do and does work.
So one day you decide I want to do something different. So how did that come about? Why didn't you just go pay the patent and throw MIPS in your stuff?
Partially because I think that again, back to helmets are too hard. With MIPS, you put a plastic layer between your skull and the foam that's supposed to crush. So you're slightly protecting the foam from crushing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So, and I've tested MIPS, and I'm going to tell everybody that bought a MIPS helmet that what they tell you it does work. It does slow down rotational forces, and that's important. So I'm not here to bash on MIPS and say they're full of shit. They're not. They accomplished something very important and taught us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when the first time we talked about this, you were like, "Hey, man, I'm stoked that they did that because they made people start paying attention to it."
Yep. But as I started researching more and got into this whole thing of helmets are too hard and how do we make softer stuff, I actually met Dr. Dan Plant from the Imperial College of London, who was working on the gel pieces that we now use. His background originally was from the UK military. They gave them money to study when a Humvee runs over a bomb in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan,
wherever.
That the Humvee survives, but everybody inside gets killed because or majorly injured. So how do you reduce those forces? And then it went from there, and then it went to boxing studies where he told me this one story where I was on the fence about MIPS. I'm like, does this stuff really work? And and he's like, so he says, an Olympic boxer cannot knock out another boxer with one punch. And you're like, well, I've seen a lot of knockouts. And he said, yeah, I just said one punch. There's a couple of reasons why. The Olympic boxers have bigger gloves than pros and MMA. And then they make them wear headgear. So they can't hit directly that 75 Gs that we just talked about. You just can't reach it with that stuff. So how do you knock them out? 1, 2, get the brain spinning. You get the brain spinning, the layers of the brain spin at different rates, the axions break, knocks them out. And that's when he told me that's when I went, oh, that's what MIPS is trying to do. They're trying to slow down that rotation.
So like hit him on the top of the head, hit him in the jaw on the other side, and then it's just going to twist the head around and
lights out.
Shake. That's it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's when I started really paying attention to the rotational stuff and said, all right, so, and he had the initial idea of, well, what if we put these gel things, and he put it in Liette's helmets first. Liette has those Turbine 360 pieces.
Yeah, I have to take a look at those. I'm not familiar. Is it similar though? Similar idea.
Similar idea. And he, we started talking. He said, and we can even make a more efficient structure. And now actually last year, he worked with Fly on their motorsport side, and they've got another structure. So it's material combination, because he actually worked originally with D3O. And so he's got that kind of materials background. Now this is a little bit different formulation, but in the same vein. And it hardens more as the bigger the impact, because you want that small impact to take the little stuff, but you do have to take big hits. So you got to harden it up.
So your LDL does that? It stiffens as it gets impacted?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, as it needs to. Yeah.
So those of you that can't see it kind of looks like the top of a Lego where it's like the little round part and it has a hole in the middle of it. So like, you know how the cheap Legos didn't, or some of the weird shaped ones, they have like holes in the top of the little pegs that snap together. That's kind of what the LDL looks like.
This? There I am.
Yeah, there you go. So those of you guys that are watching, he's holding some in his hand, but basically they're not very big. They're only about maybe not even a quarter of an inch tall.
Yeah, 3 millimeter, like 4 millimeter.
Yeah. And so the idea is that
gooey.
Yeah, and so then those are like spaced all over the inside of the helmet, and now that's giving you like a little bit more of an impact zone where your head's smushing against it, but then it can twist as well.
Correct.
And so is there I'm sure you probably have a number, maybe not, like how much does that reduce just having that little bit of material
48 times.
Really?
Wait, no, that's that Trek stuff.
So
they came out and said 48 times.
Yeah.
So between God, it all adds up. The in molding that we did on motorcycle helmets reduced the linear impacts by 20 to 25%. Then we added the cone shapes that we haven't really talked about. That added another 5-6%. So we're getting up there. And it also depends on if we're talking a linear or a oblique impact. We see reductions in oblique impact, so the rotation stuff, same stuff as MIPS, in the 20% range.
Wow. It's crazy to look at this, like when you look at it on the inside of the helmet. Somebody asked me this recently and they were like, how is that possibly doing anything? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm not a freaking scientist or an engineer, but it obviously works. You guys wouldn't be like spending all your time figuring it out if it didn't.
We actually spend a lot of time on it. We continue to test. We test in like 4 different test labs around the world. And the reason people ask me why I do that is because test lab have biases. I mean, they test specific ways, and we get different results in one lab than another lab. So we're constantly trying to make sure we're balancing and getting the best information. Like if we only did it in our own lab, what would we do? We'd choose the best results. Oh, look, here's our 48 times better. Yeah. Right. So I use a lab, 2 different labs in Southern California, one called ACT. They do a lot of certification testing, but the one I really like is Dynamic Research Institute, which they do everything. Like they do distracted driving tests. They took a airplane simulator and turned it into a car simulator where they put TV screens all around it and then had teenagers driving in it while texting. And then had cars come in, and they're totally into the whole safety thing. But I use them and work with Dr. Terry Smith there. We use the Imperial College of London. We use TAS that's in the Netherlands, just because getting different, the different research gives us a bigger, wider view of not just one person's opinion.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. So that helps with the rotational stuff. Now you were talking about the cone stuff, and I'm going to try to explain this to people. And this is from my memory, so this will be your chance to cringe. But the way that I remember seeing, you had a cutout of a half of a helmet, and you could see, instead of it just being one material that's all the foam, just one material in there, there was another material that was shaped in looked like triangles or cones, with the point being the outside of your head, or the farthest away from your head, and the flatter part being closer to your skull. And they're like all over the inside of that foam. So that way, that was, if I remember, just like a different material, so it helped dissipate the force more.
Different densities. They can be different materials, and we actually now use multiple materials. Most of the material our base material comes out of Ohio. It's a Swedish company called Polysource, and it's just more. It's mo better than the stuff that you just buy when you're in Asia. So we buy our stuff from the U.S. and ship it to our factory in Asia.
So is that cone stuff in all the helmets, or just the moto? Or
no, they're in a lot of our helmets. They're in not just moto. Bike also, it's in the the Maya that you're wearing.
Oh, right on.
So, our goal is to take all our technologies and drive them down so everybody is protected the same way. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
You definitely have the LDL in a lot of helmets, though. And that was one of the things that I remember you telling me about a few years ago when you first launched it. And now, I mean, you have it down in some pretty inexpensive helmets.
Right now, 70 is our lowest.
Yeah.
And we're going to launch a kid's helmet this in the end of this year. Mm-hmm. That'll be 55. So, but I want it in everything. I mean, right. I believe in it that much. We see the results and the testing, and that I also take every time I can get somebody's crash helmet back, we take it back. I cut them open, I study them, I look at them, and now it's an official program. But initially, it was just I want to take a look at everybody's crash helmet and see how it failed, and theoretically, hopefully not failed.
Right,
but
right.
How
it's a failure to you if it's broken.
Yes.
Right. So you're using your industry talk there.
Right. And
so I think to back up and help you out with that story a little bit, because I've heard it and I think it's a great one. Originally, there was no, or let me back up a little bit more. Cali has a program where you buy a helmet. If you crash in it and you break it, you hit them up and you send them back the helmet, and then they give you a brand new one. And do they pay shipping?
Yeah.
So you pay shipping and you get a new helmet. So basically, you buy one helmet, you get two if you break it, right? So when you said you first started that, though, nobody in the company knew you were doing that.
Yeah, it was behind the scenes. I mean, and usually what happens, and I feel honored when people do this. Often you get an email from somebody, or get back to you and go, "Dude, I crashed. I thank you." Yeah. And I'm like, my first response is, "Oh my God, thank God I'm talking to you," because a quarter inch another way and bad shit happens, right?
Right.
So I said, so I would say, if you send me your helmet back, I'll give you a new one because I want to study it. And so it was just a thing between me and that crashed rider.
Yeah.
And then marketing gets hold of shit and it becomes a thing, and it's okay. So, and people go, "Oh, people are going to be throwing these helmets on the ground," and you're like, you know what? No, they're not. And if the few dickheads that are going to do it, I don't care. We don't want it. Right. That's not how we want to. Do you want to stress that? I don't want to stress that. Yeah. And the conversations that I have with people who are, who have crashed, are usually just awesome. I mean, they're appreciative that we give a shit that much, that we want to know what happened. And I think for a lot of companies, it's hard, especially when they do other stuff. No offense. I mean, I think, the guys who do the full line of bikes and accessories, they have helmet guys that give a shit too, and they want to do a good job. I'm not bashing on that. But a lot of times the first response is, "Oh shit, somebody got hurt. Don't say anything." My first response is, "Are you okay? Talk to me." Right. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know that, I mean, we just want everybody to get up and ride again, just like anybody would. Right. So it's a great program because I talk to almost everybody that sends a helmet in. Right now, my son, who's now kicking my ass riding, he's working with us, and he handles crash replacement, and he sits right next to me. He's like, "Dad, what do you think of this one?" And I'm like, "Holy shit,"
Right.
And we talk to the people, we find out what's going on and how they're doing, and
when I was down there, you guys had like a big, huge box that was probably like 3 or 4 feet tall and 4x4 wide, and it was just full of broken helmets. And there was some in there where I was like, all right, that was a bad day. But there was some in there, it was like, man, that was a really bad day.
Yeah. We put on gloves. This is before COVID. Like I have one the other day from a guy that I mean, it was mostly from his face. It wasn't a full face helmet, and it was just, I mean, you could just see the blood everywhere.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
And, but, I talked to the guy and he's just like, I'm here because I was wearing a helmet.
Right.
And we're stoked that he was. So.
Right. I know, like, I wore a helmet for probably, let's just call it like the first 10 years of riding mountain bikes, and never had an incident where I like broke a helmet. And I remember sometimes I would question myself, because I grew up, in the 80s and 90s. Like, I was a kid in the 80s, and dude, nobody wore helmets except for like that one kid whose parents like made him, you know what I mean? It's like everybody else, dude, we just went around town riding BMX, raising hell and like scraping our knees and shit, right?
Yeah.
And so like I remember questioning, like, oh man, am I like just being miserable and hot and sweaty all the time wearing this thing? And I went over to the bars once and just freaking like dead sailored into some rock and just, I think it was the first time I've ever actually had my bell rung, where, you know, you hear that like, ding, you know, and I thought I was like seeing stars and shit. I thought I was in a cartoon, you know, and I'm sitting there on the side of the trail and I took the helmet off and I look at the outside of it. And it's just got this huge like cracking into the plastic. And I was like, holy crap. Like I would be like bleeding my brain out right now if it wasn't for this thing. And at that point I was sold, you know. Yeah. And fortunately I was wearing a helmet when I got sold, you know, and I see guys still to this day. Sometimes you'll be out riding, you'll see some kids like, or not even kids, sometimes some adults, you know, riding around with no helmet on. You're like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like this is no joke, you know.
You know, I actually have always been a personal choice person.
Yeah.
As much as I believe your chances, not just believe, I have the statistics to show it. Right. I live it, but I do believe it's a personal choice. I'm okay with motorcycle laws in like Arizona. It's a personal choice. There's a lot of discussion on that. Okay, now you're exposing medical costs and this, and that's not really where I'm going with that.
Right. No, I get what you're saying about personal choice, though.
You know, so as much as you think I could get my kids to wear helmets while they were skateboarding,
right? Nope. They don't want to hear it, huh?
No.
How many kids you got?
I've got a 19-year-old son who's working at Cali right now, and you know, big skateboarder, big hockey player, into hockey, and just like 6 months ago got into riding. And first, and we rent part of our building out to a CrossFit gym. So he's like got super fit. So at first it was like he'd go straight up the mountain and just burn himself out, right? And it was easy. Now he's kicking my ass the whole ride, not just up, down to. So we did Downeyville last Wednesday.
Oh yeah,
Downeyville, and he was just railing it. So nice. And then I've got a 21-year-old daughter at the University of Utah studying physician's assistant stuff, and she's camping, hiking, and all into that stuff. And then I've got two stepkids that are the exact same age. I got a stepson 19 and a stepdaughter 21 who just started at SLO this week, or just moved down to SLO.
Oh, cool.
Going to school. Yeah, that's why we were down there. Yeah,
that's a super cool city. I've never been there. That was like really, really nice down there.
Me neither. That whole downtown area, how wicked cool fun is that?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of San Antonio. It was like how I had the little creek going through town and little restaurants and stuff pinned around it. I thought it was pretty sick. That's crazy to me that your son is just getting into riding now. Like, have you been mountain biking all along, or?
Yeah. You know, he would mess around with BMX a little bit. We'd go over to Calabasas, you know, and ride over there, and a little bit at Cunningham. But skateboarding took over. Him and my stepson, you know, they're thick as thieves on getting out. I built a half pipe in my backyard, and then built a bigger one at the warehouse.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got a pretty big skate park in your office as well.
We do. I just moved the mini ramp, the 4 or 5 foot mini ramp outside. So it's actually a good move because the kids have just been all over it. So, you know, hanging out.
Yeah.
Not my kids. I mean, just neighborhood kids that I don't know.
How do you do that? Like I would imagine. Yeah, you just don't.
Please don't ask. No. So I know, because people are like, how do you?
Because you have like people that haven't seen on my videos that I've done down here. You have like a serious like dirt jump park out in the back lot of your building. That drop in that you have is probably what, 30-40 feet in the air.
It's 30 feet dropped into 3 kickers.
Yeah,
and then ends up with a quarter. We've got a boner log that's like, I mean, Regatkin came out about, I don't know, 3 months ago.
That's
Yeah,
Nikolai
in February.
Regatkin, for those of you guys who don't know. He's one of the Cali riders.
And he was just like, man, I could ride here. I can train here. So we have a young man who's hung out from the time he was 16, who's now on the FMB tour, who just started building. When we first started this thing, I said, okay, no gaps, only tabletops, only this, And
next thing you know, you got a 30-foot drop in.
and we do have a airbag onto a resi mat.
Yeah, nice.
But but not enough kids were coming, and it's like, okay, we either go ahead and let them go bigger. It's a little scary. I mean,
yeah.
But we've kept it. Like I did have a dad ask me the other day, why I did this, and I said, we really try to make it only for kids who are serious about riding.
Right.
It's not, when it was only the tabletops and stuff, we started having kids come out and just hang out and smoking and doing stuff like that. It's like, that's not what it's about. I mean, if you want to ride here, you need to be fairly serious about what you're doing. Not to say that we don't have stuff that I can ride, or that, that we have a Strider track for little kids. But it's, I mean, we're in the bike industry. It's supposed to be fun. Right. And if we can't, have a little fun with it. So yeah, we sign a waiver and we knock on wood or cross something and hope that because we don't want anybody to get hurt. We never do.
You guys got some pretty young kids out there doing some serious jumps, man. I know I was down there for you guys had an event. And there were some kids, they were probably 8, 9 years old, man, dropping in on that thing. I tell you what, personally, I would be scared shitless just climbing up that thing, let alone going up there and sitting on a bike and just dropping out.
Yeah. Me too. I was shocked. And I was shocked that the kids are doing it. Fortunately, Zach, the kid who I talked about, who's doing most of the building, he taught at Woodward up in Tahoe. And he has a pretty good eye on who's ready to go up to that drop in. Yeah. And so we have some other jumps that are kind of like he'll watch you and he'll go, okay, yeah, you're ready to try this or you're ready to go to this. And in fact, we just right off the side of the 30-foot drop in, we just put one about 10 feet lower into a mellower drop in so that you can work your way up into that. And that's the point of the resi mat and the airbag is the kicker isn't as kicked so that that you can fly up onto the airbag and get the feeling of that weightlessness and get into it. But I'm not trying to make training camp or anything. I'm just I dig it when people ride and kids ride, and I mean the parents have been stoked about having a place that their kids can ride, and so
for sure.
Good
That's
stuff.
awesome. So you guys make kids helmets as well as you make adult helmets.
Sure.
Is that all the same testing, like the same materials and like design? Like how does that work for kid stuff?
It's similar. The nice thing about kids, I don't know if nice. The difference is we tend to do a simpler design, which allows us to make them softer, the lower density thing that I love. Right. We don't tend to put as many vents in them. Big vents drive up the foam density and make everything harder because you got to have a certain amount of material to dissipate that energy.
Right.
So, when you're talking about huge vents, I'm just looking around for what's sitting around here.
It's all right.
You just end up having to drive up the density. And with the kids' helmets, we tend to make them a little more simple so that you can keep that foam density lower. The best thing we can do for safety is lowering foam density. And one of the worst things you can do for lowering foam density is making more vents. So back when vent count was all that roadies wanted to talk about, your density of the foam was so fucking hard. You were damaging people's heads.
Oh wow. Yeah, it was like just no bueno, huh?
Yeah, well, and here I do grab one. What's kind of cool, and I'm not showing you this because it's a Cali, but on the roadside, shapes have gotten simpler. See, I'm not very good at this whole online stuff, but this is a new road helmet that's coming out with us pretty soon. Road, cross, whatever you want to say, but it's now a little bit more aero. It's good size vents.
Yeah, no, that's pretty sharp,
but not a ton of vents. So now I don't have to drive that foam density through the roof. And that's not just me. That's a trend in the industry.
Right.
This helmet was actually designed by a guy that was at Giro for 20 years as their lead designer. And now he's freelance, and he did this one for us because what do I know about road?
Right on. So that's on the way, coming out here soon.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you brought out a new helmet recently, huh? A new mountain bike helmet.
The full face?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Invader. Interceptor is an old that's your enduro helmet, huh?
Yeah.
Let's think about that.
The Invader was based DNA from the Interceptor. And the idea behind it has been to have a ton of ventilation so that you can ride it for hours and not feel like I got to tear this thing off. So that's the one I've been kind of showing up here. I mean, just look at the amount of vents that are in it, in the airflow that happens.
This is a full face helmet. The chin bar is completely attached. I remember I asked you years ago, whenever Bell and those guys were coming out with the detachable chin bar, and I remember asking you like, "Hey, are you going to do that?" And you said to me, "I don't think it's safe." You said there are some guys that I've seen do it well. I think I do think it was Bell that you said like the way that they did it, you were impressed with it. You did feel like that was safe, but you said for you yourself, you felt like it was better to have either a full face, fully full face, or a half lid. And
this thing goes all the way around. It's one piece all the way around. So the strength is all the way around. With the detachables, you've got a lot of mechanisms right here and
over by the ears.
Yeah. And you know, it's a little bit weaker there. And I just liked to just have this mono structure. And I'm way more comfortable with it. I think the Fox Pro Frame does the same.
Yeah.
It's not detachable.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I just buy into that from a design side.
I can tell you, I have one that has a detachable chin on it, and I never ride it without it. Like, so basically, it's a full face to me, right? You know, and so it's like the idea of having it be able to be detached is like I don't use it that way. The only reason I've used that helmet is because it reads really well.
So how often do you see people actually carrying it on their back?
Yeah, like next to never, right?
I've seen it a few times. Like I'm shocked because I've always saying how many times, and then you find somebody who does it. But yeah.
So the idea of that helmet when you came out with it was you wanted to be able to have a full face that people could ride like.
It's a trail helmet.
Yeah, a trail helmet.
It's a full face trail helmet. I do not consider this a downhill helmet. I don't want to see you riding a line on this helmet. Go get your full face helmet when you go ride a line. We have that helmet. Other people have that helmet that's built for that. This is, in my mind, a trail helmet. But look at what we're riding on trail now. Go do UC Santa Cruz campus. I mean, that's good shit, but it's like serious. It's not like
there's some full commit jumps on that trail for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but even you mentioned Downeyville, you rode that with your son the other day, and you're coming down Third Divide. If you're a fairly decent rider, you're at least over 30 miles an hour.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And 30 miles an hour hitting the ground. I don't care if you're not hitting a tree or anything. You're just hitting the ground. Like that's some damage can be done there.
Well, and look at our bikes. Our bikes are handling this stuff better and better, and it's allowing us to do those speeds, and it's allowing us to go over that stuff. Yeah,
there's no way I could have done that on my fully rigid bike that I had in 1990. That's for sure.
Exactly. What are you riding now? What are you on?
I have a Bronson. Still riding that Bronson, and then I have a hardtail that's just been all I want to ride lately. It's just
cool.
Yeah. So that thing's kind of changed my whole stance on everything. All of a sudden, I feel like people are like over biking. They're buying these like 170 mil bikes with this super long, frame and 29 wheels, and then they're like riding these local trails that are like if 5 years ago, everybody calling XC trails. Now all of a sudden they're enduro trails. It's like, it's like, okay, when I go to Tahoe, I need the suspension. Yeah, for sure. But most of the stuff I ride around here, like I ride my hardtail and just have a blast.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really changed my perspective. The only part of it that doesn't work well with me is that I'm over 40 and your back is like, hey, dude, get on the squish, man.
Some days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How about you? What are you riding?
So I just retired my Bronson. And I got to tell you, I absolutely loved it. I if I could have gone wider tires, I would have stayed on it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good friends with the Pivot guys.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Have a couple former employees
over
Patrick's
there. And, down there, right?
Yeah, Patrick's down there. Brian's down there. Always had, Chris rides a Cali helmet. Chris, the owner of Pivot.
Oh, right on.
And they've been giving me shit for a few years. Why am I not riding a Pivot? And really is money,
right? You're like, well, why don't you guys give me a bike and then I will be?
No, you can't do that. But they did help me out this time, and I picked up a Switchblade.
I would think that you would get industry pricing, man. You are in the industry.
I did, and they did, but you don't want to ask for it. When it finally comes and because you don't want to be that guy,
right?
Even in the industry, you're just like, God, there's too many guys who are like, give me, and it's like,
those damn YouTubers, man. That's all they want is free shit.
So, I get it though. It's expensive. So I narrowed it down to the Switchblade, right? Yeah. And
that's the 29er, right?
No, wait. It's the one that can go 29 or 27.5 plus.
Oh, you can do both.
Yes.
Okay.
So
hence the name.
I asked for the 27.5 plus in an email because I didn't do a regular order form kind of thing. And it came with a 29.
Oh, shoot. And then you fell in love.
No. So So I'm like, okay, it came. I'm just going to try it. I don't want to be a whiny butt. When he's going 29, hated it.
Right.
Absolutely hated it. There's guys at the office hearing me say how much I hated this bike and like, we'll take it.
Right.
Can I buy it for what you bought it for? We'll take it. And so I went back to him and said, this just isn't working for me. The 29 thing wasn't working for me. Then I got the 27.5 plus on it. I'm in love. It's a lot like my Bronson, honestly, but now I'm able to go with the wider tires. I'm sure I'd be happy with the new Bronson where you can go with the 27.5 plus. I'm a big fan of the Bronson. And
Bronson's a badass bike.
Yeah. But now, with the 27.5. So 29 just there's all that controversy. I know that you can go faster on it. I know it rolls over things better. It's that
I always say it's not as flickable.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Like I always feel like they pick the lines a little bit more than you pick the lines.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not there.
Yeah. I have the 27.5 plus on my hardtail though. And I tell you that grip, especially for a big dude like me, oh my God, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And that's what I'm loving about it. Like I was super lucky before shutdown happened. We were visiting our distributor in Chile and I was riding with a guy who rides pro on the downhill enduro series. And they put me on a 29 and that thing just ate me alive. Just that topping over that thing, so it's kind of like me and whiskey. I've never grown up to the adult taste of whiskey. And I've never grown up to the adult 29er. So
no, I can understand. I think it has a lot to do with the bike itself. And I've ridden now because I used to be like hardcore anti 29er. And I'm starting to like sip the Kool-Aid. I'm not drinking it, but I'm starting to sip it a little bit here and there. I've been on a few different bikes that still handled really well. And I didn't feel like they had that sluggishness, let's just say that they have,
But doesn't it depend on what trail you're on too?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think I like a cross country trail. If you're on that on a 29er, you'll love it. like that just gets up and goes, you know.
Yeah.
But for me, I like the like slow technical chunk stuff, and I just don't feel like it shines there. It just doesn't shine there, you know.
Well, when I got the new wheels, I kept the old ones, so they're hanging up right over
There
here.
you go.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna still keep trying to play with it and try to grow up to it and still like it. But you know, it's cool. So
I bet you after using the 27.5 Plus for a while and then putting them on, it won't be that much of a difference, and maybe then it'll make sense.
Well, now I love the bike, so I'm not gonna be, you know, it's not me getting used to the bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the Invader. I've talked to a few people that say that the small is too small and the large is too large. Was there a reason that you didn't make a medium, or is there like plans for that in the future?
Yes. If for those of you who know, the Invader took us a long time to get out. It's just getting that fit right of it being a cross country helmet, but having a full face on it.
What was difficult?
Fit.
Just getting it to actually like be comfortable.
Yeah. Even down to the last minutes, I was even having hot spots and had to make last minute changes.
Because in my mind, it's like you already have full face helmets. Like, isn't that like the same inside shape, or like what is it that's so different?
When you have a full face helmet, like a motorcycle helmet or a downhill helmet,
right,
you can put pads everywhere. You can just comfort the hell out of it. When you've only got certain spots to put those pads,
because you have so much ventilation, that's what you're up against.
So if any of my sales guys are listening to me, they're going to kill me tomorrow morning. So this is the one I've been riding, and you see what the difference is?
Oh, the back's cut out.
And what do you see here?
Oh, you got a twisty knob too. Nice.
Fit system. It just fits so many more people. It's you're taking out that back pad.
The back wasn't there before though. That whole cutout there, right?
There was a bar that came across here. So now it's going to fit the 2.0 version.
That's funny because I know a guy that actually like kind of shaved a little bit of his helmet off back there. He said he took the LDL out and kind of because he just couldn't get it to fit right.
And so honestly, I didn't have a fit system developed. We had to develop a whole new fit system that would actually fit into that helmet before we could just put one in. You can't just throw one in. Fit systems, have to fit right into the helmet. So I've been riding that prototype now for a couple of months, and the difference and putting it on people, and the difference is now instead of, oh, I don't have this right pad, I got to fix this pad out, I got to do this. Now you just put it in, you click the dial, and it's nice. It's nice. It actually did two things though. Here, this thing ventilates awesome already compared to a lot of the full face ones, and no knock on them. They chose to close the back up. This does not meet the downhill standard because it's too ventilated. The impacts can't handle it. So if you look at like the Fox Pro frame, it passes the DH standard, but the back is completely closed. It's open up here, but the back's closed. And the reason they did that was to pass the downhill standard. So I openly tell people, this is not a downhill helmet. It's a trail helmet, but it ventilates way better than those ones that chose to be a downhill helmet.
But your chin bar, I remember you telling me, or somebody told me, your chin bar still passes like the moto test for impact.
But that's because it's that full mono structure instead of having that removable one. It's super strong.
So what's the difference then in the DH certification? Is just that like because you have all those holes in the back, like
there's different there's different impacts that you do all through the helmet. And multiple impacts that with all those vents we can't.
It just ends up breaking. Yeah. Huh. So that system that you have, that round clicky system, are you going to be putting that in your other helmets too?
Yeah, there's a
because you used to have one sort of like that in the Maya, and then you switched to this other one, and I think those ones that that little round clicky one that you got there.
This is going into the new Maya.
It is
maybe in the Maya, yeah.
Oh, sweet.
So
that'll make some people happy.
It will. That was not an easy decision either, because even though you had that weird, that dual closure system, that it's a little clunky, but everybody loved the fit of the Maya. So
yeah, the Maya, the fit is perfect,
right? But people complained about the fit system.
Yeah.
But wait, that's what made it fit so well. So when
Right.
you go and put a new fit system in, you got to be super careful. So
didn't you have a different one before that though?
not in the Maya.
Oh, it wasn't in the Maya. Maybe
We have a few different fit systems.
Okay.
The cool thing about this one is now I don't have to have that back pad here. This now ventilates better than the original version, and the Maya will be similar. And so I've got that, and then we've got a couple of more Maya-esque helmets coming out shortly. Yeah.
When's the 2.0 Invader come out? Another year or
December.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I'd like to try that helmet. I honestly have been like just battling with not wearing I've been battling with myself thinking I should be wearing a full face more often. And just because of the speeds that I'm going, like even on my local trails, like over 20 miles an hour on a pretty chunky trail that has a significant drop down to a river, like I'm just asking for like the day where I lose my front teeth and then I'm like, oh, I should have been wearing a full face. You know what I mean?
You know, it's hard because we've been riding for a long time, you know,
right.
and we think I got this. And then I get to see a lot of accidents and some pretty shitty. And you're just like going, fuck, if that person just had a full face,
right,
this would have come out different. But I mean, we're so used to not, wearing that. I've actually got another full face on the chalkboard that's been there.
Check you out, man. You're all over it, huh?
Well, I think it's a good idea, but I'm thinking like hockey helmets. Why can hockey players wear these things? You know, the kids anyway, not the pros, that don't bother them. So why can't we have airflow like that? And so that's again, and I'm going to get in trouble again. The original Invader.
Man, we shouldn't put you online live, man.
They always say that. They're like, no, don't say that. Don't say that. No, it's all good. But the original designs was more like a hockey face mask. Just because, it didn't get nixed because it's still around the concept, but it just was too foreign to people. But now, how many times are you riding your local trails and you're seeing people on full faces?
Yeah, people
where you never. Now it's like not uncool. Before it was like, what are you going to North Star?
Right, but I mean, you're seeing more and more people just like I guess you could kind of do the air quote like enduro bro kind of look to it. But I think what it comes down to, I know with the few friends of mine that wear them, they had a pretty shitty accident, and they were like, you know what? Like it just like they're like, I don't care. I don't care if people make fun of me. I don't care if I'm a little hotter. I don't care. Like they're like, it's worth it, and it's sad that like that's what it takes us to like come to terms with something like safety, but it unfortunately it's the truth. I mean, for me, I never wore elbow pads or knee pads for years and years and years, and it was a couple years ago laying on my bed with bandages on both my knees and both my elbows, and I was like, I'm calling Callie tomorrow and we're gonna make this happen because this is ridiculous. Like why am I making the decision to not wear this stuff? And like your knee pads, for example, that I wear, your knee and your elbow pads, they're super comfortable. Like I see guys like ripping their pads off at the end of a ride, and like the elbow pads will take off probably just because it's easy, but the knee pads, I'm like, whatever, dude.
You get home, you'll do it when you get home.
I'll have money and we drinking beer. I'm be sitting at the bar. I'm still got my knee pads on. It's like I don't even care, man. They're super comfortable. So I think that that same kind of idea needs to come, full circle with people with the helmets.
I was talking to a bike shop owner who his wife went down and hit her face, and he's like, she quit riding. Here's a guy who owns a bike shop, and his wife's an integral part of it. And then when he saw the Invader, he's like, I think I can get her back on a bike with this. And that's awesome. I mean, what do we want more? I mean, not to switch gears too much, but how awesome is it? How many people we're seeing on our trails right now?
Oh yeah.
I know some people are bummed their trails are busy, but I mean, these are local trails. We all know how to get away from these people. If we really want to go, we can get away from them. And the fact that we're seeing people on our trails and enjoying cycling, a way to get out in these tough times is really cool. But a lot of them are beginners,
Yeah, no, there definitely is.
There's
some people, and you can tell, they're a little unfamiliar with how to handle their bike and stuff like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, we were all beginners at one point. So
yep.
I think that it's awesome that people are out there, and hey, it's good for the shops right now are killing it. Like, every guy that I know that works at a shop or owns a shop, they're all like, dude, we're like selling more bikes and doing more service than we ever done, which is cool, man. Like, right on. Like, the more riders you have, the more trails we're going to end up with.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bigger group then,
Yep.
So that's a good thing.
Yep. A little shot in the arm for the bike industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, when that new Invader is, the inside still going to be red?
You don't like it?
I'm not crazy about red, man. And I'm all like, I love to be like matchy. So I'm like, can I get different colors on the inside? Or
Elaine, you know Elaine, right? Our design director now.
Okay. Yeah. No. I don't think that matter.
Him. It's
him.
Elaine, guy. That's okay. He's changing it to black.
Okay.
So he's gonna love to hear that.
Yeah.
Robert said, he wants it black too. So you're going to see some versions with we'll get you on a black inside with the fit system on it.
All right.
You.
I'm in, man. I'm in.
I think I can get you in November.
Oh, right on. That'd be awesome. You guys heard it here. So if it doesn't happen in November, we're all coming down there and knocking on the door, right? No, that's awesome. No, that's really good, man. It sounds like you have a lot of new products that you're working on right now. How do you juggle all that, dude? Because you're still the only designer, right? Or
no, I'm the only engineer.
Engineer, okay.
Right. And so in the past, I would outsource the design parts to other people. And we just got.
So what does design mean? Just like the pretty shapes and colors and stuff like that?
Well, it means a lot of things, actually. I don't want to discount it.
No.
When we hired Elaine, the office I first put him in from a previous person said safety before design. And he's like, how about we put design with safety? How about I'm like, nope, it's still safety before design as long as I'm in this position. But we are trying to balance it a little bit more. But it comes to a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So honestly, most companies start with drawings first, shapes first, and then they engineer it after. We try to start with what's our objective safety wise first. And then we go in and we start talking about what this thing should look like. And so you'll sit down with a guy like Elaine, or we have another guy, Alan, who we start, saying, hey, the Invader's an example. We're happy with the Interceptor. We want that DNA. So start with that as a base, and they start sketching and they start drawing, and then they make the vents way too big. And I say, no, you have to shrink those down, so it's a back and forth process. So it starts with simple, 2D sketches of, okay, this is going to work. This is not going to work. And then it moves on to, we still clay our helmets. We do it. Once we're happy with a 2D design, we make it into clay, just like they used to do with cars.
Oh, right on, man. I was going to ask you that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm a former CAD guy. I started going to college to be a CAD engineer, but you just don't get that organicness that you get out of touching it out of the clay.
Totally.
So then we digitize it, and then we put it into CAD. Then we review it, making sure that it's what we want. And then we go and we check all the thicknesses and different things that we want from the engineering
I'm surprised
side.
you don't like print it, like 3D print it.
Wait for it. One step ahead. So once we go through all that process, we do 3D print it.
Oh, sweet.
And we have, it's like a plastic thing you can touch, hold, and put on your head. You certainly wouldn't want to crash in it because it has no safety features in it. But, and then you find out, oh, shit, we missed this or we missed that. So we do 3D print it. Then we'll go back sometimes and redo the CAD or, make adjustments however we need to do it. And then from there, you start looking at it and go, okay, those proportions aren't right. This is, and that's where, our design people come in more and we nail the shapes. And then it goes to a whole graphics process. which is like,
yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I would imagine at that point you're like, dude, you guys do whatever you need to do. I'm out.
Well, you got to be careful. Yes, I'd like to say that. And now that we have a better, we've been around longer and we have a good team looking at it. I mean, early on, I think I didn't pay enough attention to the graphics and did exactly what you said. Yeah. Do whatever you want. And our guys went crazy. And we put like the Cali mask 18 times on a helmet and, all these things that just didn't make sense. So we pulled way back and kind of, did my favorite two colors, black and a little less black. No, still black and black.
Okay.
Back and black. Oh, wait, sorry.
There you go.
And then, then you look at the details. You look at, all the little pieces and things like that. And so now, I was doing the majority of that and now having help because honestly, colors and graphics are not my strength. I mean, I didn't make any of them. I just hired other people to do them. And now we have, a clear direction and somebody driving that part. And that's a great relief to me.
So check this out. One of the guys in the comments wanted to know how you guys came up with the logo.
So I have a partner in France who takes care of Europe, and he worked for Solomon. He's a total skate rat, and he came up with a logo. I'm trying to here. I got a piece of paper here that was 2Ks back to back.
Okay.
Can you see that? No, you can't really see that.
There it is. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Sort of looks like the dead Kennedy sign.
Or the brand Core.
Yeah.
Remember the brand? Are they still around?
I don't know.
Sorry, Lance, if you're not. And I'm like, no, that one's been taken. And I said, well, how about you do something a little bit more organic? And that, something that a kid would want to draw on his folder while he's bored at school. I even use the word peachy folder, like anybody knows what a peachy folder is anymore. But
not anymore.
So he came up and came up with that, and it's a bit more organic, and it's really started with 2Ks back to back that just kind of grew from the design side. We overused it, we abused it. Like literally every designer we work with would want to put it all over the place. So we've kind of pulled back on it, but it's still fun and it's actually a little controversial. Like some people love it. Well, some people love it. Like our South American distributors love it. Other people it's kind of childish, but it's ours. Yeah. So anyway, we use it a little more sparingly now.
Yeah. Oh well. It's your brand, man.
It is. I still wear it with pride.
Yeah, no, I think it's a cool logo, and it's definitely like you recognize it from a distance. So, I mean, that's a good thing there. It's not gaudy. So, I think you guys do a really good job with your designs. And if there is like usually on your helmets, you'll have maybe some that are a little wilder, but then you still have like the classic black helmet with just white logos, and that's it.
And red interior.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, like the road helmet that I have is just black with white. I think the first Maya that I had was just black with white. I think, don't you always make that just the black with the white, or no?
The number one seller of all our helmets is black.
Yeah,
always. It's just always the baseline. Road gets into a little bit more white, and then we do try to have some other options out there just to spice it up.
Stuff. Yeah.
Sorry to digress, but
for it, man.
I used to make, I used to design for other companies, and I worked with this company called Fulmer, and they primarily made motorcycle helmets. They primarily made the buckets, the little half shells.
Okay. Yeah.
And they sold 90 some odd % all black. So one year they said, you know what, why do we waste our time on all these other colors? So they just came out with an all black line. The next year their sales dropped, and they believed it was just because people didn't view them as imaginative.
Right. Yeah, I gotcha.
Right. So they're like, so even if you're going to buy 90%, you still as a consumer want to see other options. Right.
Yeah, man. I know, like for me, like the black helmet goes with no matter what you're wearing. It's like no matter what bike you're on, like you're good. And last time that I got the Maya, I have the gray one with like the green kind of like lining on it.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to get the green one, the one that was just like all green, because I was like, I'm actually gonna not get something dark and black, and I'm gonna get crazy. And I didn't get it. And every time I see somebody with that helmet, I'm like, man, I should have got the green one.
I might have one around somewhere.
Really? Oh, wow. I'll have to hit you up now. So yeah, well, either way, I did want to come down there and bring my broken Maya down to you so you can take a look at it.
Yeah, let's get you off that though.
I have another one that an older one just doesn't have the LDL in it, which I wanted to ask you about. Right thing. Yeah, is when I first got the Maya, it had green LDL in it, and I noticed all your new ones have blue LDL. Yeah. What is it? Just a color change, or did you actually change the way that stuff is manufactured or set up or something?
So the people who make the LDL is a company called Rion. Mm-hmm. They were called Armor Gel, and then Under Armour sued them.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, so they changed their name, and their basic color is blue, and so they asked us to switch with them to support them. Uh-huh. So we've now moved to blue, but we've also changed the shape of it. Look, I'm gonna rip one right out of my helmet right now. Just to show you. Man,
there you go. Just
all right. It. Let's see if I can get this right. So, there you go. See, it's more. And this came from testing in London that it crushes better and folds over better than the one I showed you a few minutes ago that I threw on my desk somewhere that I can't find.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so
I have like kind of like from what I'm looking at, it looks like it's kind of like a little more like bulby on the top than it is.
And it's
before it was just like cylinder, just like a straight cylinder.
Yeah, and in the same area we only had 3, and now we have 5. So you're spreading the load better. It's better contact. It's more comfortable, but having the same effect. Uh-huh. So the other ones would get a little harder, so these ones you hardly feel.
Uh-huh.
So and we're constantly working on new shapes now. We're like, what's more efficient? It's not just to do new shapes. It's like what works the best.
Uh-huh.
Like Fly has their new shape, so I'm like, what are they doing? Right?
What's going on over there?
yeah. And they have a lot more money,
right?
So just gotta watch what they're doing. Yeah.
Hey, I mean that's how shit happens, right? Then freaking Steve Jobs get the idea for the mouse from hanging out in IBM or something like that,
or Microsoft.
I don't know. Yeah, it was one of those guys.
Yeah, innovate or rip off or duplicate. Anyway, sorry.
Something like that. So you're down there in Morgan Hill, right? Yep. There's a bunch of other bike companies in that area. Has that worked out well to your advantage, or was that just kind of happen accidentally? Or
I'd say more accidentally. Yeah, the Big Red S is like 500 meters from us, and they're welcome to come use our dirt jumps, and they do sometimes.
No, right on.
We welcome everybody. We're not obsessively competitive. We're like, we just want to ride our bikes with people. But yeah, they're there. They kind of dominate the city. We tried to get a booth at the Tour de California once, and they're like, no, you guys, no, our main sponsor won't let that happen. All right, whatever. So we just had a party.
Yeah.
No, I don't know that it's helped that much, other than our design director came from Specialized. We're stoked to have him. And
didn't you say earlier you used to work for him too?
I did many years ago. Yeah. A long time ago. No hard feelings on my side. So
yeah.
It's a rough place to work. They grind you pretty good there.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, you don't get to be that big of a company without freaking busting some chops along the way.
They treated me well.
Yeah,
they treated me on all going in, going out. So
right on, man.
Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to doing with Cali?
My main personal goal is to get it running in a way that I can totally focus on the R&D stuff. Mm-hmm. Totally work on the research, the materials, impact attenuation, and not have to focus on worrying about what the sales numbers were this week, or how we're going to make payroll, or, I mean, just the stuff that you go into as a business person that, I'm stoked to have learned. I never knew I was going to have to know as much about accounting as I do. And but I've got really good people in place. Honestly, the customer service attitude at Cali, from top to bottom, from Jason to Eric, and just the mentality of, it's not, make a sale, I got to make the sale. It's like, how can we partner with our retail partners, and like, we want to do business that makes us smile, right? And for me, those are more my goals than anything, is to continue to do the research that we do. I love, we want everybody to get up and ride again, and that's fun for me. So
totally. I get it. Makes sense. What what is there a reason that you haven't like gone into other kinds of helmets, like when we were talking about like hockey helmets, or like you do have some skate stuff, right?
Yeah. And we, my partner David that I talked about in France, he's a huge snowboarder. Like I said, worked for Solomon, still does board rides for, they give him demos and he gives them feedback. Totally. And that stuff. But it's not, I can make you an equestrian helmet that will kick ass. And I've had people come and ask us to do that. But what I've learned is marketing and selling those things is a lot different than just making them, right?
I mean, what about like other action sports, like kayaking or something like that? I mean, I would think that helmet's pretty close to a bike helmet, isn't it?
Easy to make. Yeah. I mean, not that we could do that, but
it's the marketing.
Again, it's the marketing and sales channels. It's like I said with moto, even though we still do moto, every distributor has their own moto helmet brand that, they don't want to promote another off brand. So now you've got to go into every shop. I mean, how we got Cali to work was we ground it out, picked up the phone. I don't know if you remember Alex Stover at Cali, but
I don't think,
before your time,
before my
early
time,
man. We were just calling, introducing the brands, telling them what we were about, meeting them at trade shows. And now trade shows are gone. Right.
What year did you guys start?
2009.
Okay. Yeah. So it's still a pretty young company then.
It's a grind. I mean, getting people to know who you are and what you do and why you do it. I mean, I do really appreciate, a lot of the new riders coming in now, where they call us up and ask us questions, and we actually answer the phone. And they're like, man, I'm a new rider. I've been investigating helmets, and your name keeps coming up in the safety discussions. And man, I super appreciate that. I'm so excited that's, that's happening, because I didn't start this to be cool. I didn't, that's not what we're about. And that's not our main purpose. It's to make the safest helmets we know how to make. And so, finally getting to that level of recognition took a long ass time. I mean,
I bet. And it's still not like no offense to you or the hard work that you put in. I mean, it's still not a brand that everybody knows of at this point. I think you guys are doing a great job of making a badass helmet, and over time, I mean, that word spreads on its own, and some of it's organic. I mean, but I mean, it's not like you're going to go as a small company, go dump, specialized kind of marketing money out there and try to get everybody to know. You just can't. I mean, that's impossible.
No.
But making good products and getting people to talk about them, I mean, that's definitely something you can do. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, we tried the marketing where Nikolai Rogatkins, we've had him since 2010, and he's been great. But, for us being safety first, athletes don't really sell helmets for us. It's, because we can't make those videos, and we can't do a $10,000 or $100,000 helmet launch, like like
But
Fly
I'll tell you
did.
what, watching that dude Nikolai roll down the hill in Rampage and take a what was it, like 30-40 foot digger off the side of that cliff and get up, pick his bike up and keep riding. I'm like, that'll sell some damn helmets, I'm sure.
I actually, it was when LDL was brand new. I glued those in his helmet. His was the first helmet to get him. I sat there and glued each one of them in there, and I was pretty stoked that he had it in there because he did get up and walk away. Yeah, and then we went back to the university that we developed this with, and we had the crash, we had the helmet, so we could see exactly where it hit. We slow motioned it down, and we could figure out the speed that he hit the ground. And we went back into the lab and tested the helmet with and without these, and we could determine that the likelihood of concussion went from, or being knocked out actually, from 92% down to just below 60%. Now 60% is still a lot, but reduced from almost certain you're going to be knocked out to now you have a chance. I mean, that guy's a monster, and he's rock hard, and he's a badass kid. But if we can help him get up and ride, then we're pretty stoked at that too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's definitely like, I remember the first time I saw that video and I was just like, holy crap, man. I forgot that you guys did all the science stuff, because you have some pretty cool videos. If I remember, they were on your website or your YouTube channel or something like that, that shows all of that stuff that you guys worked on there.
It's funny. You got all the safety parts of what you do, and it's not everybody that wants to follow up on that stuff, but it's important to us, and some people just want to know that we care, and then other people want to know the science behind it, and we want to make sure that they have access to that.
So what's what am I gonna say? That's a good question, Robert. ran out of talent right there. So what do you have going on that is like that you're most stoked about right now?
So right this minute, I talked about the foam being softer, right? And the foam being too hard. So we've got this foam we buy from Ohio. Talked about that from one company. We also have a foam that we buy from Italy that does something different. And each of them have two different characteristics, but neither of them are perfect. And the Italian guys are going, why aren't you using more of our material? And the Ohio guys are going, why are you even looking at this material? And I've actually got these guys working together now. They're doing a combined formulation. So this helmet here, it's called the Uno, the one helmet, the only helmet you need, the one. It's going to be the first one with that material in it. And right off the bat, it's reducing the G forces by about 12%. We think it can be better. So we're going back to these guys and go, how do you formulate this stuff better? So maybe that's the engineering geeky side. I think the other thing, to be more broad and general, is how do I take that technology that I can only get to this price point and keep bringing it down and bringing it down, so that even if you're only going to buy a $40 helmet, if you're a new rider and you're like, I don't want to buy a $100 helmet, that you can still get the same level of safety at every level. Right now, we put as much as we can afford in every price point, but the goal is to drive all these technologies down so that it doesn't matter, that you don't have to buy a $750 fly helmet to get this special technology. You can get it all the way down through the line. So those are some of my driving forces right now.
Right on, man. What is it that's keeping you from being able to do that? Is it just the cost of that, like just actually developing it, or is like the molds, or like having somebody glue that extra piece in costs this much more?
It's material costs. It's developing the materials. For example, we found, just because we got this one, I found another material that's testing out equally as good, that's like a quarter of the cost.
Right. Okay. And you're like, sweet, now we can save some money then.
Right. And I can afford
not
it
jeopardize the safety. Yeah.
Right. And then people say, well, why don't you use that in all your helmets if it's that much less? Well, because that's a material I found that this comes from guys who do research every day. They have the same goal I have. And so I want to stay close to the university. I want to stay close to the researchers. So I continue to work with these guys, put it in these helmets, and at the same time, continue to look for stuff that will work throughout the whole line.
Got it. That makes sense. That totally makes sense. So if you got that sailboat that you were talking about earlier, where would be the first place you go?
I think down the coast. I think a coastal cruise. I think I'd go down through Mexico. The first thing I'm going to do is go back to Catalina Island. One of my favorite places in the world is go to the Isthmus at Catalina Island.
Isn't that's just like outside LA, right?
It is. You can get there from Redondo Harbor in about 5 hours.
You from down there originally?
No, I grew up right here in the Bay Area, San Jose.
Oh, right on.
Moved away a few times, and then ended up
back.
Yeah, ended up in LA for aerospace gig, and then came back. But I'm willing to go anywhere anymore. The Bay Area is awesome. We pay the taxes for the weather.
Right. My lady calls it the sunshine tax.
Mine too. Exactly what my wife says. We pay the sunshine tax, and and a lot of it depends on where Cali goes and where that develops, because I don't see me leaving it anytime soon. So I need to be somewhat connected, where I'd love to, like I said, focus mostly on the R&D and the safety side and the engineering side, and let other people worry about, the website and the social media and all that stuff.
For sure.
So hopefully I'll do a podcast with you from my boat somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean.
That sounds good.
Then you'll just have to come down and join us. And
that sounds like a better idea. I'll just go meet you somewhere. We could sit on the beach and drink.
Let's go to Cabo.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm in.
Exactly.
Where do you like to ride down there?
When I'm down south?
Or no, like around home.
Around home. Well, I live 1 minute bike ride from Santa Teresa Park. So it's Santa Teresa, it's like boom or boom, it's not
up or down.
So it's great for getting the exercise. And they just opened that new park, Calero, so I can go through the Santa Teresa and do
I think I rode over there with your guy Jason and Richard from Stickered.
Yeah. Did you go up to Bald Mountain or just do the loop?
I think we kind of did a lower loop because it was like I think it was whenever you were having your little shindig that you guys put on a few months back. And then I did ride Santa Teresa on a different ride with Richard, and there was like a super chunky technical line that we came down on our hardtails and
Rocky Ridge.
Yeah, that was fun, man. Especially on a hardtail. It was like, dude, this is legit.
Yeah. So I ride it a lot because, like I said, I'm on a trail in a minute, that close to that. But like everybody around here, Flow Trail at Demo's awesome. I did go into campus, off Highway 9 there. Look, I've been traveling less for the first time in 10 years. And so like we did Downeyville, got a plan to go to the Canal Plunge down out of Bakersfield in July. And I'm dying to get up and see Wild Bill up at Ashland Adventures. So, and
have you ridden in Ashland?
I have not.
I haven't been up there yet. And I keep telling myself it's like only a 4-hour drive from Sacramento. So it's like I could so easily get up there. I don't know why I haven't. They have a pretty big event up there, don't they? Every year, like a couple of days camping or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening this year, but you just go to Ashland Mountain Adventures, and they're going to take care of you. Wild Bill's and Sue's awesome. Eric from Cali did it a couple weeks ago with his wife, and he's like, dude, you got to go up there.
It's good stuff.
North Star's opening July 10th.
Yeah, I saw they sent an email out or something like that. Somebody was posting about it online.
Yeah,
I haven't ridden that yet either.
No,
this is the thing, man. There's like limited number of weekends to ride in Tahoe, right?
Yeah.
So like every year, as soon as the snow melts, and I mean this year was kind of late, especially with the whole COVID situation going on. Like it's like go up there and ride this lift or like go do some other trail that I heard about that I haven't ever been able to do again, or you know. And for me, there's an area that's a little you know, Truckee has a lot of stuff that's not sanctioned, and I rode a trail that wasn't sanctioned up there, kind of like UC is, you know what I mean? Everybody rides it, but it's not like, you know, the legit stuff. And I rode this one like the last weekend before it started snowing last fall, and I just been like thinking about it all winter. So like stuff like that, it's like as soon as I get that opportunity, it's like go up there and ride the lifts, or like go do these adventures. You know, that's what I like the mountain bike for, right? You know,
I'm a little more lean toward the adventure side.
Yeah,
doing the lifts every once in a while, or doing like Downeyville. I mean, what?
Yeah.
How far is Downeyville from you?
I think it's like 2.5 to 3 hours. It's still a pretty good hike. Yeah.
Okay. Because it was,
but it's worth it.
Yeah.
We did that a couple weeks ago. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we self-shuttled. It was before, I think they just started running some of their shuttles.
Yeah. Not everybody's open.
So. Yeah. And I mean, and doing the self-shuttle is like, it's all fun and games at the beginning, but at the end, you got to drive back up there and get your car and come back down the hill again. It's like, oh man, what a bummer. But yeah, no, that place is super fun. There's a bunch of stuff up there that I haven't ridden either. You know?
Yeah, me either. Cool town too.
Have you tried the e-bike thing?
No.
And
go ahead. What's your question?
No, I was going to ask you, like, so where you at? Where do you stand on it? This is like the religion question of mountain biking.
I think I'm coming around to saying I need to try it.
Yeah.
Just, you know, for multiple reasons. You know, my wife's a big hiker, and she doesn't love cycling, and we've got Henry Coe right near us. It's huge.
Right.
And I'm like, man, if we got a couple e-bikes, we could destination.
Yeah.
You know, so different from let's bomb down a hill.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can go for a long way. I won't say who or what company, but I did have a engineer from a company tell me, wait till they're coming out with the new e-bikes that are going to seem like you're bombing down just like you're on a regular bike. Now, people say that right now, but you know, like when you do campus, right? If you do, or the backside of campus at UC Santa Cruz, you know, you can do a couple loops. If you're really anxious, you can do 3 loops on your regular bike, but those guys are doing 5-6 loops.
Yeah.
On you know, on dead campers, on you know, seriously good runs. So it's starting to creep into me. Well,
like even with Downeyville, like they're renting the e-bikes there at Downeyville Outfitters, and so before the snow was melted, you couldn't get all the way to the top, but you could e-bike from the shop up the hill and get like all the way up to the river or up to the top of Big Boulder and turn around and come back down and get, you know, still a good 7 miles, 8-9 miles of downhill, but you couldn't drive up there. So it was like, it's stuff like that where it's like somebody else, another channel that I'm friends with, like they just did a ride the other day. It was like 8,500 feet of climbing, but I mean, it was still like they got that back in downhill too. So realistically, I don't think those bikes help on the downhill. I actually want to do a video where I try that to see how much faster I can get on like a local trail that I know how to bomb the shit out of, and just see. I don't feel like there's a lot of advantage to the downhill, you know, other than the bike's going to be planted more because it weighs more.
Yeah.
But I don't really think that like you're not going to be pedaling and getting to go so much fast. I mean, how much pedaling do you do on downhill anyway? You know, unless you're like an EWS like racer kind of guy, you do a couple of strokes to get up the speed, and then you're freaking coasting, right? You know,
I think I needed just to keep up with my son now.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, I think, you know, I'm sorry, I'm getting older. You know, I'm not recovering on my rides as fast. I'm like, damn, I'm not ready to be done yet. So, you know, trying to stay in shape, trying to, you know, ride more, but at some point I might need a little assist. So I'm not ready yet. I'm not quite ready, but they're getting so good, and the people that have them just love them. So
it's only a matter of time until that bike weighs exactly the same as a bike does right now, except for they got those batteries in it, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe an extra 2 pounds or something like that. But I mean, that last Specialized that came out, it's like 37 pounds. I mean, my Bronson with all my crap on it, it's still like 32. You know, it's not like they're off by much.
Yeah.
I'm carrying way more in beer belly weight than that. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Right. So, what is it that, and we're getting pretty close to wrapping it up here. So what is it that makes Cali stand out in your eyes compared to other protective companies?
Well, you know, I think the fact that we are small and that we do react, and our priorities are what our priorities are. Look, the engineers at brand X, I'll even say it, you know, it's Euro, they give a shit too, but they're also owned by a corporation, and decisions have to be made. All those decisions, you know, ultimately fall on me. And as long as I'm here, that safety focus is still going to be the number one thing. And I think the other thing that's standing out is, I mean, we're a brand that is built on customer service. We give a shit about our riders. We give a shit about our dealers. We want to, you know, we want to keep it bike industry love, you know? So, you know, I don't have to answer to, you know, corporate investors. I don't have to answer to those kind of things. I've even had people come to me with ideas and say, hey, what, you know, I've got this great idea. And I go, you know, why don't you go over to Bell? They're way bigger than us, and they're just, you know, 45 minutes from here. And it's like, I try, but I can't get past, you know, the engineer thinks it's cool, but then he's got to take it to his supervisor. Then he's got to take it to his manager. Then he's got to take it to the vice president, then the president, and then finally down to corporate in Texas. You know, so for me, it's a combination. You know, we like to call it gas. We give a shit. We give a shit about what we do. I
like that.
we
sounds like a Cali type of saying to me.
We're stoked to be in the position we're in. You know, we like to treat people the way we want to be treated. And I really feel that's coming out. You know, even through these hard times, you know, we're not calling people up saying, hey, you know, can we sell you something? It's like, what do you need? You know, how are you doing? Your shop's slammed, you know, let us know if we can help you, kind of attitude.
Well, I know you really care about the safety, and that was one of the things that always meant a lot to me, like hearing some of the things that you'd say about that. I mean, I've seen you at a event stop somebody that had a really old Cali helmet and be like, hey, take this new one because I feel like this one's safer. So like, I know your marketing guys are always like, dude, you know,
shut up. Shut up.
But I mean, no, you really do care. And I think that's the thing that really, you know, shines about the company, because when you have a leader like that, that trickles down to everybody else inside of there. So I think you're doing great stuff, and you're going to keep doing good stuff. And I can't wait to see all these new products that you got coming out, man.
Come see us. Let's go ride. I'll show you some stuff that I don't have sitting here in my garage.
Yeah, no, that'd be fun. I need to make my way back down there. Richard from Stickard's always yelling at me to come down there. And usually when I'm coming down, I'm trying to get him to work on some bike of mine. So he's like, he'd be stoked if I actually came down and wasn't trying to get him to print a bunch of shit for me. So with all that being said, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show, dude. It was great chatting with you, man. Every time I talk to you, it's a good time, and you're really easy to chat with. And like I said at the beginning of the show, like, you guys are a good company. Like, I really like my favorite company that I've talked with and all the time that I've done YouTube. So I don't know what that means. And you get a shiny star or something from a big fat drunk guy or something like that. But no, seriously, you guys are great. And I really appreciate you come spend a couple hours chatting with me.
Anytime with you, buddy.
Right on, man.
Let's do it on a bike next time.
Right. Yeah. Let's do that. We then we don't have to have any headphones on or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So for everybody out there in the world that's listening to this electronically, thank you for checking this out, man. Every Sunday, this is on 5 p.m. Pacific Standard, 8 p.m. Eastern, except for when it's not. And usually if it's not, I post that on YouTube and Instagram and all those other places. Sometimes people's schedules work out for different days of the week, or I actually have a life and a job to do. So sometimes this doesn't always happen. But hey, if you guys liked what you saw today or like what you listened to, give me the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Do that for sure. If if you guys want some good equipment, some good safety equipment, seriously, stop by CaliProtectives.com. The link will be in show more, whether you're listening on a podcast or YouTube or whatever. Swing by there, check it out. I'm telling you, the Maya is the most comfortable helmet that I've ever worn. So, and apparently he's making it better. I'm anxious to go ahead and try that new Invader out. That sounds super fun to me as well. The other thing is the pads that I talked about earlier, the Cali Strikes. Those things are great. They're like a light pad that has they're just super comfortable. I mean, it's not the pad you want to go, jumping off a cliff with or something like that, but they'll save your ass. So they have done for me a lot of times over and over again. So can't speak well enough about Cali or Brad. Thanks again, man. I really appreciate you coming out here. All you guys out there, remember one thing: it only takes a bike to be a biker. So get out and be one.
Sweet.